Needs to be done on the city's end, and then what other items that Stone Creek and Red Ledges have, we can let them continue to work those items out. But I think we should continue this item and put this in place to keep things moving.
To that end, Mayor, I make the motion that we take off the table the amendment that's been hanging there waiting for this occasion. I think that we can substitute a few items basically by changing it to the amendment that's in the packet with a few changes. It's my understanding, and I read a legal brief to that effect, that Red Ledges has actually conceded every point we discussed that we wanted to have a committee meeting about, and I think it's time we move on. But my motion is that we untable that amendment.
My second. First and second, Councilmember Smith, table motion has been put in place. The Fourth Amendment to Interlocal Agreement, Red Ledges. Any other discussion on the motion has been stated? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes back on the table. We'd also probably like to maybe remove another motion we made on the request to easements. You want to take that off?
I think my motion is that we substitute into that amendment we've just untabled. We make an amendment basically to substitute the amendment, Fourth Amendment extension that is in our packet. And there is in our packet also a different schedule that shows very distinctly that that's a road connection as well as a utility, with that being added into the Fourth Amendment extension so that to replace the other schedule of like number or letter. With that added in, I move that we substitute that amendment and proceed after discussion to grant that extension.
You already send that motion that Heidi made on the easements?
Well, I'll let Heidi speak to that. Basically, I'm asking that it come onto the table for discussion. I'm making the motion that we substitute into my amendment, the former amendment that's on the table, that's not on the table anymore, sorry. With the, no, it's off the table now. We voted it.
Okay,
so we have no motion. I make the motion that we substitute what's before us with the amendment that's in our packet, with the addition of the other schedule instead of the one that's in there that more clearly clarifies the connection. I don't know if you can bring that up, staff, but in our packet, I asked that of Todd, and it's the last item that was just, pull that up so you can see that.
Substitute that.
Now it says road and utility easement, where before it just said utility easement, and the title now is road and utility easement. In our packet, it only said, in our original amendment that we're dealing with, unless we amend it, it just said utility in both those locations. Just to be very clear about it, it now says road utility, so I'm suggesting this schedule be substituted into the Fourth Amendment, its extension, in place of the other one. And then I move that we pass that other, that we substitute that amendment for the one that's on the
motion for it.
That's my motion.
Is there a second for this motion? Second.
Still puzzled, but
Ron, can I ask you to clarify your motion to say that the additional road and utility easements be substituted for page 12 of the Fourth Interlocal Agreement that we're considering off the table now? It just seems to be replacing page 12 in our first thing. Is that correct?
are you looking at the Fourth Amendment?
Yes, Fourth Amendment, page 12, where it previously said utility easement exhibit. You're just wanting to put in this map a road and utility easement.
Let me just check the pages. I think you're right, but 14, I believe. No, it is 12. Okay. Yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. That we approve the Red Ledges Fourth Amendment we substitute the amendment that's on the table, which is the one we brought off, with the one that's in our packet, but with this schedule change in that amendment. Is that clear enough? Yeah, page 12 will be substituted for this page 12 here. And I move we consider that, motion to consider that, substituting that for the other one. That's all we're doing, start with.
So we have a first and second, the other discussion, the motion was stated.
I'd like to add another thing to your motion, please, or just item 4, where it says road right-of-way dedication, and maybe this can be a second motion, but I do think it should, before we vote on the whole thing, as you're suggesting, that
Well,
we consider one more.
I don't disagree, but what we're really doing is voting to substitute the one for the other, and then certainly you can amend 4 beyond what I'm doing.
See, I hate to be picky, but I think your motion was to, vote on the whole thing with including that page.
Well, but there's always there's room for
And if we just
discussion
vote on
and
the whole,
amendments.
if we vote on the whole thing, then I would prefer that we add something, just some clarifying language on item 4, page 2.
But we're not voting to pass it, are we? Are we voting to
We're only voting to substitute the other
Just to
one.
bring page 28. He's not, he hasn't voted for the whole thing.
Could you restate your motion then, that you're voting to include the new page 12 into this 4th amendment?
I move that, to clarify, Mayor, what's on our agenda, on our table right now is the old amendment. I am voting to substitute the old one for the new one that's in our packet, with the exchange of page 12 into the one that's in our packet. So in our packet is
Full agreement, good agreement.
the full agreement, except for page 12 being changed. And it's just, the motion, if I get it passed, is to substitute the old one for the new one. Then there's full discussion and amendments and anything we want to do after that.
Thank you.
My second still stands.
Any discussion on the motion that's been stated? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now I usually want to change 4.
Mayor, I'd like us to look at page 2, please, on this substituted current 4th amendment that's in our packet today, and just clarify so that it is exceedingly clear on some other timelines and so forth. Now that Ron has added in the page 12, I really appreciate that. But I would like us to consider this language on number 4, saying road right-of-way dedication. And instead of starting with upon completion, I would like it to say within 2 weeks of completion of the bypass road and connection road, a plat describing the 66-foot road right-of-way underlying the roadway, including the east road and utility connection described in Exhibit C, shall be dedicated by Red Ledges to Heber City.
Maybe legal advice that Mr. Smedley, any thoughts on the change of that wording?
No objection to that clarification. I don't know that it changes the spirit of it. So I haven't looked at the language. How did you want me to look at specifically? But the way you indicated it, it sounds fine. This is the first time
Listen
hearing
to
it.
it again as she states it.
Okay, just to make sure we have deadlines in place, and maybe we want to put some teeth into this because we have had concerns about easements in the past. I haven't addressed that kind of teeth, but I'm just saying within 2 weeks, so it says for road right-of-way, everybody can see that there. Within 2 weeks of completion of the bypass road and connection road, a plat describing the 66-foot road right-of-way underlying the roadway, including the east road and utility connection described in Exhibit C that we just replaced, shall be dedicated by Red Ledges to Heber City.
And the purpose of that, Heidi, is just to clarify the timing of when that is dedicated and
Yes.
executed. That sounds like what
Yes.
you're trying to do.
Yes, and to make sure we're referring to exactly what's in Exhibit C as identified.
And then it's going underline correctly.
Underline, yeah, not underline.
I second that.
I have a first by Councilmember Franco, but she stated it, and Councilmember Critton seconded her motion. Any other discussion of the motion?
This motion is just to add that language.
Yeah.
Item number 4.
there's no teeth in it, and we had problems with easements. Obviously, that's kind of brought us to this point. If we want to put some teeth in, we could refer back up to paragraph 1, or we could just refer to that at the end of, not paragraph 1, but item 1, second paragraph. We could say, if it's not included in 2
Tony,
weeks, then the conditions
could you
in item 1
find
will
that?
apply.
Say that again.
Yeah, again, just to put teeth into it, Jeff, in item 1, second paragraph, it says that if there's a breach, then they agree that if the breach occurs, we can withhold further phase approvals until it's been completed. So again, we're trying to put some teeth into this to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And if we want to really put teeth into number 4, the 2-week deadline, then we could say if the 2-week deadline is not met, then we refer to the breach conditions in item 1.
We have a motion currently in place, so you want to amend your motion to add
Yeah, I'll be happy to amend the motion.
the rest of,
To add
is
one
that
more
for the body, for the
sentence.
body?
Mayor, could I just make a suggestion? They're both good ideas. If I may, maybe vote on the first motion, and then this next one is an amendment to another provision. Then you can discuss that and vote on that motion as well. It just keeps the record clear.
I prefer that, Heidi. It's easily doable.
That's fine, we'll go with the first one. Motion on number 4.
I call previous question on the amendment that's before us.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, go ahead.
Okay, one more sentence at the end of number 4, please. If there is a breach in this item, the conditions under item 1 will apply. Maybe we should say a breach in this item, we should say a breach in the timing. There's a breach of the timing or a violation of the timing. Okay, Mark, here you go.
Well, this is great idea. This is the only thing that I think the language already covers that, because it says you've changed nicely now that you've got timing in it. That's good. And then that language that we put in there regarding the teeth says that if there's any breach of any provision, then you can withhold those things. That was also your suggestion, which is good. If we start now saying, now in addition to that, if there is a breach on this paragraph, then the provisions of prohibition will apply to that.
The first paragraph only applies to construction. It doesn't apply to, any items afterwards. And this is afterwards.
I think it does. I think the second paragraph, where it says the parties specifically agree that failure, second paragraph on the one.
It's on construction or extensions, but it's not about this specific easement being granted. So could we just insert the language there?
You could insert that as far as the timing of the execution of the easement.
Right, so perhaps we could say in number 1, Mark, that we will finish on-site construction or subsequent granted extension or any further part of this agreement. Right, that any failure on the part of anything else in this agreement shall constitute a breach.
The whole agreement.
Thank you, Mark.
I have no objection to that.
Okay, all right, Mayor, I'd like to amend the motion, please, instead of number 4, we'll go to number 1, please. We're looking at the second paragraph, Michelle. Yeah, for Mark. The parties specifically agree that failure on the part of Red Ledge is to initiate and finish the on-site physical construction of said bypass road in connection with by October 31st, 2019, or subsequent granted extensions or any other provision of this agreement, or any other provision of this agreement shall constitute a breach. There's the motion.
Second.
Okay, first and a second by Councilmember Smith. Any discussion of the motion been stated? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's been amended.
Thank you.
Anything else, council, wants to talk about on this item?
given the assurances that Red Ledges has given. They've agreed to everything I'm aware of, other than maybe some little legal whatevers. I've read the agreement that they proffered to Stone Creek, just not a lot of legal jargon in it, Mr. Smedley, but it seems like they're agreeing to the initial part of the road construction. They're agreeing to the curb. Well, Stone Creek's agreeing to the curb, and they're agreeing to the retention basin. There's a lot of little detailed language about how that comes forward, but I think Red Ledges has agreed to everything we were going to discuss as a committee, and we don't need the committee, and it's time to move on. That's my feeling.
Could we get verification from that with Tony and Bart as far as any review that you've seen of what was given to us, at 421 today? Have you reviewed that? I know Mark Smedley has said, weighed in on it, but have either of you looked at it? Because I'm concerned how it matches up with the conditions in the other interlocal agreements. The other, where the park is and so forth.
If I could, I don't think the interlocal agreement addresses any of these three items that's in the settlement. Those were settlement offers beyond the extension and beyond the interlocal agreement. Those were matters that had been agreed to between the parties that are not part of the interlocal agreement.
Well, since I didn't have time to read it, right before our meeting, Mark Smedley, could you come up and just, you gave us quite a long email, very dense. Is there any way you could just come up and verify what your understanding is of the agreement? Not that you have to say what it is exactly, but, does it address the concerns that we already voted on to negotiate?
Well, as I understand, and the reason I gave the dense email is I got questions. I got a letter yesterday, and then I got emails while I was prosecuting for the city this morning, so I responded as quickly as I could. Right? So my understanding is that with regard to the Fourth Amendment that you are contemplating, in my opinion, as I've read it and gone over it and changed it, and with these two amendments, which tightens it, everything that the city was looking for with regard to the water easement, the connection on the bypass road to the east, and the water pressure that concerned the other residents. Now we're going to get that water. Those were the primary concerns of the council, the public, and Bart Mumford as the city engineer. All of those things now have been agreed to in an agreement ready to be executed by Red Ledges. That was primarily, those were the eminent, when I made this, that's what the city was really concerned about. Additionally, there were other concerns between Red Ledges and Stone Creek. Stone Creek was concerned about. One of which was the connection. So Stone Creek gets the connection to the right. I think the city has pushed and come into that and defended Stone Creek and kind of brought the parties together there, number one. Number two, they've also, Stone Creek has now this ability to have the water connection for the water easement. The other remaining issues, really, the nexus between the city and what is needed is weaker there. It's more of a nexus between Red Ledges and Stone Creek. But, and in addition, and to their benefit, the parties have come together, and my understanding is that proposals have been made by Red Ledges with regard to the retention pond, which is of concern to the city, but primarily to the parties, and the easement for the northwest curve, and the initial work piece. The only fourth issue was the connection to the east road, and that's already been taken care of in this Fourth Amendment. The proposal here, as I understand it, is that Red Ledges has made a proposal to agree to those, and they're waiting to see what, I guess, the response from Stone Creek is. If that comes to fruition, all the better for the city. But, let me just read, since I took time, I think that I don't see any legal reason which would prohibit the city from approving the Fourth Amendment to the Interlocal Agreement, as Ron has indicated. While ideally it would be good to have a written agreement resolving all the issues, between the two developers. The issues that the city engineer, the city council, and the public seem most exercised about appear to have been resolved with this Fourth Amendment agreement. I agree with that, in my opinion. And as I understand, the proposals from Red Ledges to Stone Creek that I just read meet all the other matters. While there may be some advantages to postponing approval on the Fourth Amendment until ultimately all the parties have an agreement, the ideal, I don't think that was the initial move of those two motions, and I don't think that, just in my opinion, that I think that the city starts to push a little bit on that. The city pushes to limits on unnecessarily inserting itself between and in the negotiation of the parties, particularly these three, but they're almost there, it appears. Any advantage to postponing this may be swallowed up in the perception that, hey, the city kind of indicated, or they have, that they weren't going to insert themselves, notwithstanding they kind of pushed to get what they needed. Red Ledges has acquiesced to those three things. And then for the city now to postpone and leverage this out a little bit, the perception and the potential legal defense to now postpone the agreement, now that Red Ledges has acquiesced, giving what the city has obtained, could be misunderstood or perceived or mischaracterized, and it weakens any legal defense that we may have. Particularly where in doing so, the city kind of stays in between these two private entities. And the record shows that we've got everything that we were negotiating for and our nexus was complete. Does that help?
Can I just ask one more question? So what's included in Exhibits A and C right now are the water line easements. And so as we pass that, those will be dedicated to the city as of tonight, if we pass it. Is that correct?
As soon as we get them ready and executed, and with your language if they don't, yeah, the roadway easement and the water lines and the connection.
So there's really nothing else that Red Ledges need to do because it's all included in this agreement. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. You check part of the legal descriptions.
There's issues between the two parties.
I don't understand what it means by this. Signed by.
So what's before the council now is
We don't.
So what's before the council now is an agreement. Once that agreement is done, now they are bound, and you have the teeth that you want, and then all we have to do is draft up the legal descriptions for the recording of these easements, the water line easement in the road.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah.
In that Wasatch County and Twin Creek still have to approve the amendment.
But these have been prepared, and Mr. Cates brings up a good point. They're already in that packet. Those are the exhibits. We took extra care to make sure that those easements are ready. We have to get Wasatch, that's right. We have to get Wasatch County and Twin Creek's agreement. I anticipate that will come.
Have we given the county council notice about the different revisions that we've done here and the direction we're going?
No.
Public knowledge.
Well, are they going to be willing to put it onto their next agenda, that meeting that we will be likely attending on the 2nd?
I would assume that Red Ledges would make that request to get on the county's agenda as quickly as they can.
I don't know how that
No,
would change your
that should be a
decision
city
tonight at all.
thing.
I think we should request it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I don't know that whether we request it or not, that would change the determination of what we do.
It's the way that simultaneous kind of language, right? It's not simultaneous because we are waiting on these other parties and we will have to take it through. But as far as what we need tonight to make sure that, their part is done, our part is done, etc. That's all I want to know. And then another concern was is that whatever they're agreeing between themselves, okay, will it stand up to engineering needs, will it stand up to the conditions that were put into all of the other agreements between the city, the county, and the villages? I'm not sure. I'm hopeful it will.
I am as well. I'm confident that as well. We've done, honestly, the best that we can as far as shoring up those things, engineering. Yeah, I'm confident that we have a good binding agreement that takes care of the city and resolves issues. And if they work this other thing out between the two of them, all the better.
Yes, we'll just see what the county wants to do. Ms. Allen?
In an informal conversation with them, they said that they assumed they would just go along with whatever the city thought. Who was there that day?
I've discussed it with why they haven't been coming to these meetings, and basically Mike Davis signs for the county, and they've never come. They've left it to the city on every one of these, so I think it's certainly fine to ask that they look at it. They will look at it. They're going to be a signatory.
And it doesn't prejudice the city. I mean, it doesn't compromise the city's position if they say no. All that does is it takes us back to trying to convince them. So I don't see that there's any any compromise at all with regard to those.
I mean, the signature lines on here is Mike Davis, County Manager, Alan McDonald, Mayor, Heber City Recorder, Twin Creeks, Red Ledges. They won't be simultaneous. They can't all get a hold of the pen. I mean, each one will sign, and when they've all signed, it'll be recorded, right?
Yeah, I don't see an issue.
With the amendments, no piece of the puzzle kind of put back again. I'm going to turn some time to Red Ledges and to Stone Creek. Give a minute, take 2 minutes. What's your thoughts?
I really don't have a lot to say. I think it's all been stated, and I'm fine with these amendments. I don't have any issues with those items. In terms of Stone Creek, I'll let them speak for themselves. We agreed to all of their changes as of, it's been about a week ago. We had requested one change from their request from us, and that was they wanted the initial work section built by July 1st of this year. This was a total change compared to what they had originally proposed to us a couple of weeks back. And we actually agreed to that. We had requested that we do it by October 31st instead of July 1st. For some reason, they're not open to agreeing to that. So we fell back and said, okay, we will be the good neighbor and we will put it in by July 1st as well. So I think we've acquiesced, as Mr. Smedley stated, to everything that the city wanted. We've acquiesced to everything that Stone Creek has wanted. So I don't know what else there would be at this point. That's all I